Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Cimmerian September, Michael K. Vaughan's great event where we celebrate Robert E. Howard, greatest pulp writer of them all, and all of his creations. You can read his boxing stories, his U.S. westerns, his historical fiction, his high fantasy with characters like Kull and Conan. And that is kind of the concentration this time around for Cimmerian September. So maybe if you're interested in that kind of guidance, then you would this particular year sway away from Conan pastiche fiction. But I'm swaying towards it. I'm being a rebel, and I have fallen into reading a bunch of physical copies of Marvel Comics' old Savage Sword of Conan run. Specifically after issue 100 thereabouts. It was after thereabouts issue 100 that I stopped regularly reading Savage Sword of Conan because the artwork was no longer a guarantee. And I bought comics, including the Savage Sword of Conan is an oversized black and white comic. I bought comics for the artwork. I was always happy when that coincided with a good story, but I largely bought them for the artwork. So once I brought home a couple of issues of Savage Sword of Conan and the artwork really hadn't done anything for me, I sort of mentally dropped it off my regular list and just glanced at it but did not buy it. So a lot of these things are new to me. And that definitely applies to the issue that we're reading today, number 107. Look at that cover. Some of you won't need any trouble. You won't have any trouble at all identifying who did that. Of course, you see that. But the artist here is Earl Norm, and his Conan covers are incredible. They're just amazing. In some early issues of Savage Sword, they are operatic. They wrap around from front to back. This has just an ad on the back. But I have always wanted a big full color collection of Earl Norm's artwork, not just his Conan covers, but all of his book design covers, all that sort of stuff. Probably some small press has done that, and I just don't know about it. I should look and see. But if that hasn't been done, or even if it has been done, somebody ought to do it again. The folks at Titan Books ought to get on the phone to whoever they need to make such a book happen, because he is wonderful. His covers are just wonderful. This is maybe not as wonderful as his covers get. It has a few visual oddities. The dragon head on the prow of the ship does not look like it's part of the ship. And the armor-clad woman on the cover there, it's going to be a little hard to make the point here, especially since you're looking at it through a camera. But she is not in the right proportion to where she is in the ship, to what the ship is doing. Actually, Conan isn't either, but Conan gets to be out of proportion. He's the star of the show. This is a little awkward of a cover. I don't imagine this taking Earl Norm very long. But the story that we're dealing with, again, this comes from the 1980s when all the world made sense. And this is called The Eyes of Jabar Rejin. And it is written by Michael Fleischer, and the artwork here is by Rudy Nebris, who is a fantastic inker and also a really good artist in his own right. That I always wish, I don't know anything about Rudy Nebris. I've never met him. I always wished in my heyday as a comic book reader that he were maybe a faster artist, maybe a more proficient artist, so that he could stay on a book for a long time, either as an inker or as the principal artist. I would, for instance, have loved to see him do a 40-issue run illustrating Doctor Strange, a comic he was born to illustrate. I think instead he probably inked a dozen issues or so, maybe drew a couple of issues of Doctor Strange, maybe a dozen issues of Doctor Strange, but not a whole run, not an epic to define an era. And that's a shame. And he draws this issue. Instead of inking somebody else. I guess the principal artist at this time was Ernie Chan, and I can't imagine Rudy Nebris inking Ernie Chan. I can't imagine what that would look like. Talk about a mismatched pair. Because Ernie Chan is very choppy, very small, black little lines, curved lines, very detailed. And Rudy Nebris is very sinuous. He's very, very supple. I can't imagine how that would work. I don't imagine that it would please either of them, the end result. But this story is called The Eyes of Jabar Rejin. And it starts in a marketplace. Pretty simple start, but oh my, right away you get shown why I love Rudy Nebris. Look at how beautiful that is. Just look at that. Compare that to the artwork we saw just yesterday. It's just amazing. It's just incredibly detailed, incredibly beautiful. And into this marketplace ride a trio of thieves, and they grab this rich young woman who is in silks, and they are stopped by Conan. Conan the Barbarian happens to be moving by. He is a little bit bored, and he decides to save this woman, and she is very grateful. And she takes him home. Let me show you here to move forward. I'm going to jump around in the narration here because the issue jumps around. She takes him to her father's home in the hills. It turns out he is a very wealthy man, a nice man. He is very courteous and friendly to Conan. Conan is very courteous and friendly to him. As the man shows Conan his treasures and offers him sumptuous food, a comfortable bed for the night, his own daughter, Melisandre, for the night. And one of the treasures that the man shows Conan, again, let me fast forward here. One of the treasures that he shows him, look at this artwork, just incredible, just amazing, every detail. He shows him this thing. It's an eye sitting on a cushion. And it is the priceless eye of Jabar Rejin. And he tells us a story. We get this sumptuous visual here. He tells the story. That is no gemstone you see there, lad, but a real eye. The eye of the mighty god Jabar Rejin, whose worship flourished long before the age of the gods we pray to. From one eye, Jabar Rejin could fire searing bolts of eldritch flame. From the other, wielding beams of mystic ice. But Jabar Rejin was arrogant and ambitious. He sought to dethrone the elder gods. And so it was that in their wrath the elder gods destroyed him, until all that remained of Jabar Rejin were his two magic eyes. I obtained the one eye years ago for a fabulous sum. The other resides in the collection of our provincial governor. And then he demonstrates the eye, that it, on command, can fire bolts of flame. But it's protected, because when any thief gets near it, solid iron bars come down from the ceiling and lodge in place, so that no one can get to the eye. And thereby, in the course of this issue, we realize that there's another eye out there, and that it's nearby. It's in the governor's mansion. It's not in some other continent, or lost under the ocean. And that brings us to, in a roundabout way, to another character in this book, who I guess, I wonder if we get a notation. I think we do at one point get a notation. But this is obviously a character who has been introduced, maybe by Michael Fleischer, before, called the Snow Raven. This is the Snow Raven. Look at that. Look at these visuals. And she is pretty feisty. She's very good with Ebola. Here she takes the sash of a priest and snares it to 2 water jugs and uses it as Ebola in order to disable a man long enough to grab his weapon. And she's pretty good with those too and manages to escape. And we see her ride off into the hills, and then the scene shifts again to a tavern. Now night enshrouds the Argosian capital, and at the notorious Kraken Inn, watering hole of cutthroats, panderers, and thieves, and we see them. Look at that image. Oh my God. The artwork here is just night and day to the last artwork that we saw, whose the artist's name I don't even remember. We see these people, they're all having fun, they're all cavorting, when who shows up? You're never going to believe it. It's him. It's Borak Sharak, the same one-handed, masked bad guy that we saw in the last issue that we looked at. He shows up in the doorway. and starts immediately to talk trash and then to fight with all of these ruffians, and then finally to bolt them inside and set the tavern on fire as he rides away. And we got a piteous bit of dialogue. Please, I'm just a serving girl. I don't want to die. We don't see her, but we get that, and she dies too. So Borak Sharak is still a mindless murderer, and he is still dead set on vengeance against Conan. It's the only thing he thinks about. When we last saw him last time, he has Conan almost at his mercy, is about to kill him when a different femme fatale shoots him with an arrow in the back. What's the matter, baby? You want to go over there? Oh, God, help us. There we go. Here, he is... We don't know how long ago that was. We don't know how long in the future this thing is. But here, he is completely better. How that is, I have no idea. He ran away alone. Did he find someone to take that arrow out of his back? Can't take it out on your own if it's up on your shoulder blade or in your lung. But look at the detail there. Just incredible. Amazing. He rides off, so we now know that he is a baddie. And we see him approaching the governor's palace by night. Look at that. Look at how lovely that is. And he is there to steal the other eye of Jabar Rejin. He's there to steal the other eye, but he's not alone. The Snow Raven is also there. And she's got a well and truly proper bolo this time, and they start to fight, and then they decide to team up. That if she will help him, then she can have the eye, and she can either keep it or sell it. She wants to sell it. She's a pure thief. She doesn't care about the sorcerer's provenance of this thing. She just wants to sell it. But first, in their camp, Borak Sharak shows her its power. This eye can freeze things. He freezes a rabbit. Notice, we get a very clear view of his naked back. I guess maybe that nick right there is supposed to be where the arrow went in, but how did it come out? And how is he still alive? But anyway, they decide to be partners. That if only help me destroy Conan, and the priceless eye of Jabar Rejin shall be yours, either for the keeping or the selling. And she says, it's a deal. I will help you. And he wants to seal the pact with some sex, and she refuses. Absolutely refuses. She knees him. And he's cursing because if only I didn't need you. So they make their way to a location that is familiar to us. The home of the father of the woman that Conan saved. They are going to steal the other eye so that they can have both of them. But we know that the eye is protected, and sure enough, those bars come down. But Borak Sharak uses his eye to freeze the bars so that they are brittle and shatter like glass. So now he has both eyes. And for some reason, he has both eyes, and Conan shows up because he's upstairs bedding his host daughter. And for some reason, in the midst of the chaos, Borak Sharak is firing off bolts of eldritch energy at Conan, but says, Snow Raven says, "Let's be gone from here, Corsair. I hear others coming." And he says, "Stay back, Cimmerian, I warn you, else I'll turn you into a putrid mass of scorched and blackened flesh." But why are they running? From anybody. Why are they running? They have two super weapons. Why do they need to worry that this rich man's house guards are coming? But nevertheless, they do. And the rich man says, "Well, I'll alert the authorities tomorrow, but probably we should get back to sleep tonight." And they all do. They all do. Why? What difference does it make to Conan if it's night or day? What does he care about local authorities? He knows that a man who's dedicated his entire existence to killing him now has not one but two super weapons to do it with. But during the night, the Snow Raven appears at Conan's window. for a little hanky-panky, blah, 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 boom. She says, she warns him, but she also says, not for the warning alone did I come here. I came because the kiss we once shared was not nearly enough for me, barbarian, and so this time I want you to give me much more than a kiss. Much, much more. And naturally, the South Boston Irish Catholic in me said, all right, I'll spot you next time we're at Sully's for fish and chips. That's not what she means. And the rich man's daughter overhears this talk and automatically assumes that Conan is in league with the thieves. But that doesn't matter. That turns out to go nowhere. Instead, she leaves. Snow Raven gets her fill of Conan and then leaves back to her camp with Borak Sharak before he notices that she's been gone. But he does notice. We get more of this gorgeous artwork. But he does notice. And he freezes her. And Conan finds her that way when he goes out searching. Belatedly, I guess. He goes out belatedly. He doesn't have any soldiers with him. The waiting seems to have had no point at all, except for it to be daylight, or to give a little time for her to be imperiled. But it's also given Borak Sharak time to accessorize, because he's taken the two eyes of Jabar Rejin and put them in his iron mask, the mask on his face, and somehow is able to activate them without touching them. So he now has hot and cold supervision just by thinking about it in his helmet. And he turns these beams on Conan, who through sheer force of will manages to resist. And Snow Raven is thawing out too, just gradually. She is thawing out too. Apparently these things don't last for long. We've already seen that. When the rich man shows Conan his eye of Jabar Rejin setting something on fire, he tells Conan the effect is not long lasting. The fire will go out on its own, and presumably the ice as well. So she is starting to thaw out as well. But Conan knocks Borak Sharak's magic helmet off, and Borak Sharak says that I don't need a helmet with mystical gems in it to defeat you. Sometimes, he says, the old ways are best. And they start to fight. Okay, this is a perfect demonstration of what I was talking about yesterday, of what I talk about often with comic books, which is how artwork can make or break an issue. In the last issue that we saw Borak Sharak with, he is fighting Conan, and it's a pretty even match, even though Borak Sharak is one-handed. It's a pretty even match, and the artwork that we saw was boring. The layouts are boring. There was no dynamicism in the fight at all, including in a moment where Conan, very uncharacteristically, is able to jump above a chest-high sword fight, which Conan cannot do. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, the character has limitations. He's only interesting if you give him limitations. He can't jump like that. He's not an acrobat. This is the same kind of fight, where Conan does the same thing. But look how much better it is. Look how much more entertaining this is. Rudin-Ebris realizes that in order to make this fight seem chaotic and dynamic and flow past its boundaries, I will remove panel borders. I'll have them fighting all over the page so that your eyes have to be paying extra close attention, including this impractical jump. And it works. It works here where it didn't work there. That's the difference that a great artist can make. And here, even the little nick on his shoulder is gone. He has recovered without a scar from taking an arrow at point-blank range in his back. And he says, "You're the reason I lost half my right arm. It's on your account that the Zingarans gouged out my eye." Both of those happened in Savage Sword of Conan number 75, and I remember that issue. I think I might have talked about it on a previous Cimmerian September. I remember that issue. Borak Sharak was a very interesting figure in that issue. He was at no time sympathetic, but he was taking so many hits from so many different people that you couldn't help but sympathize with him. He and Conan are fighting, and he's bellowing out, "You're the reason I lost half my arm!" And then in the next page, this is very Stan Lee type overwriting. He says, "I hate you. Don't you understand that? I loathe you with every fiber of my being." Yeah, we got that, Borak. We got that just fine. But he accidentally steps into the beams that apparently are still flowing from his mystic helmet, and they freeze him. They freeze him in place. So he's just standing there. While Snow Raven and Conan decide what they're going to do with the magic gems. And she says, I suppose we ought to at least freeze him good and solid just to make certain he can't thaw till we've had time to escape. And then she says, unless, of course, you'd like to shatter him into 1,000 fragments the way he did the cage of that steel bars. Nay, I didn't think so. It's just not your way of doing things, no matter how deserving the adversary may be of slaughter. Why is that? Yesterday, in our previous installment, we saw Conan grab a guard by the throat who merely ran into the room. Didn't even draw a weapon on him. Merely ran into the room to subdue him. The guard said, I have a wife, I have a mistress, I have 3 kids, and Conan easily killed him. Without a thought. But you're not going to kill this guy? But that's not my main question. My main question is, what's this business about till we've had time to escape? You have the 2 mystic gems. Whether you use them or not, he doesn't have them anymore. Barak Sharak doesn't have them anymore. Which means when he thaws out, it's him versus Conan. Even if Snow Raven is neutral, even if she doesn't join in, she's pretty handy with a knife and a bola, but even if she doesn't join in, it's still Conan versus him, and Conan will win. Why are these two acting like their only chance of living is to escape while this guy is frozen? Why are they acting that way? The worst that will happen when he thaws out is that Conan will kill him. He's not superpowered, and he doesn't have his mystical weapons, and yet they leave. Why does Conan keep leaving this guy alive? Why? Why does he do that? First of all, Conan would not have any problem with shattering him into 1,000 pieces like glass. But even if Conan did have a problem, even if Michael Fleischer's Conan did have a problem with that, this Conan could certainly wait for him to thaw out, wait until he's feeling just fine, and then kill him the old-fashioned way. Are we supposed to assume from this, are we supposed to intuit from this, that Barak Sharak on his own, without any mystical weapons, is Conan superior in combat? The whole point of the Cimmerian Age is that Conan doesn't have a one-on-one superior in combat. Much less a guy who's one-eyed and one-handed. But nevertheless, that's how the issue ends. And again, without anything saying that. There's no the end, there's no nothing like that. They just ride off in different directions and leave him frozen. To thaw out, we know he will thaw out, and go back to his mission of vengeance. It's ridiculous. I suppose maybe it's Michael Fleischer's idea of giving Conan a recurring bad guy. And if that's true, it's well taken, because Barak Sharak is at least memorable. And he's a bad guy that, you know, might, with the right edge, present a serious problem to Conan, but he's also a bad guy who can be beaten. Unlike Thoth Amon, for instance. I suppose that might be the thinking behind it, but if that's the thinking behind it, you've got to do better than this kind of an ending. Conan is not a superhero. Superman puts Lex Luthor in jail. He doesn't kill him. Batman doesn't kill the Joker, famously. But that's because they're superheroes, real superheroes, not Spider-Man, who kills the Green Goblin, but superheroes. So Conan's not that. Surely he would kill this guy. I'm not saying take unfair advantage of him and shatter him to pieces. Wait for him to thaw and kill him then. But no, he doesn't. And the issue ends there. So I'm sure we haven't seen the last of Barak Sharak. And then we get pin-ups by Rudy Nebres that are lovely, absolutely lovely. I think there's 3 of them. One's a double pager. Look at that. Oh, man. Look at that. And that is the issue. In the letters page, we have now read enough consecutive letters so that we are catching up to an issue that we saw. A whole bunch of the letters in the letters page this time around are praising Bob Larkin for that cover that we saw when we started Cimmerian in September, where Conan is bisecting someone with a sword, and we see the sparks from the chainmail rather than the gore and the eviscera. People in the letters page are complimenting that cover one after another after another. It was a pretty effective cover. Maybe more effective than this, although Earl Norem is better. as a cover artist. So there you go. The Eyes of Jabar Rejin is our story for today. What happens to those eyes? No idea. It seems to me that they would be pretty powerful in the hands of anyone you sold them to. But apparently, Conan is going to bring his back to the rich old man that it was taken from. I guess. That is heavily implied. And Snow Raven is just going to sell hers. I guess. Instead of setting herself up as a largely unbeatable warlord with a super weapon, she's going to sell hers to somebody. And that is that issue. The only thing I know for sure coming up is that we're not done with Borak Sharak, because Conan has once again refused to kill him. This is 2 issues in a row where he could easily have done so. So we'll see. I'll see if I'm right. But anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.